It is another edition of Behind the Book, brought to you by the playMGM app. Gill Alexander from the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. And ladies and gentlemen, here he is again, the Vice President of Racing Sports at MGM Resorts International, Jay Rude, live from Shadow Creek. How you doing, man?
Good.
You bent the elbow there.
Yeah, well, that's the way Johnny Carson used to do it, so it's
That's
good enough
right.
for him, it's good enough for me.
How great is this setting, though?
It is. It's outstanding, right? We're out off of the porch, we're on the grass.
Yeah.
Ready to go have a little putting contest with the crew. You know, everybody pitching $100, and we'll see what happens.
A little gambleitis.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
I know one guy will participate.
That's right. And he's not referring to me either. It's our producer, Matt Brown. We look forward to that contest. By the way, of course, the reason we're here is because it's the first of golf's majors, the Masters. We got all the betting implications where you have liability, all the different markets you can bet into, and we'll talk some hockey playoffs as well.
Yeah, a little bit of everything going on this week.
We'll do it. From Shadow Creek, it's Behind the Book, brought to you by the playMGM app. Back on Behind the Book, brought to you by the playMGM app, live from Shadow Creek. Beautiful Shadow Creek, one of the greatest golf courses in the country. In fact, rated kind of universally as such. Take out the word kind of. Pretty universally agreed upon. It's Gill Alexander. It's Jay Rude, the Vice President of Racing Sports at MGM Resorts International. It is golf's first major. It is the Masters at Augusta. And for those who have not bet the sport of golf, let me just sort of say this. If there was ever a sport ripe for a betting revolution, this is that sport.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. I think it lends itself strongly to for a lot of growth because of in-game as the round is unfolding, especially on Sunday. I mean, when there's a lot of drama and everything, you know, every shot is sort of like moans and groans that are on your TV are now going to be able to come out of the TV. So I think there's opportunity for all kinds of props. You know, once we start getting a little bit more data on, like, you know, drives, you know, and all that coming in real time, you know, how far someone's driving it. You know, will a guy three putt? Will a guy, you know, will someone have a hole in one? I mean, we offer all that right now, but it's just, I think it's a perfect medium for betting.
Yeah, there's no other sport that has 90 participants, or in this case, 87 participants at once. All kinds of things you can do with that. The basic sort of pre-flop bets, if you will, are the standard ones. First and foremost, the most simple of them all is to win the Masters, the futures market. And last 11 years, Jay, we've had 61 golfers that have had shorter than 20-to-1 odds to win it. And in the last 11 years, that is, only 2 have actually won with shorter than 20-to-1 odds. 2015, Jordan Spieth did it in his famous year winning the Masters. 2010, Phil Mickelson, one of his green jackets. Other than that, though, long shots abound, and we could see it this year as well.
It makes sense, right? I mean, you're bringing all the best golfers in the world together, and they all have proven that you know, they're all pretty good. So, you know, when you're getting a guy that has won on the tour before and is you know, maybe 30, 40 to 1. Jason Day pops in my mind right now at 30 to 1. I mean, that's great value on a guy who is an outstanding golfer. And you know, you got the shorter ones. You know, sometimes you shy away from them in these types of events where it's so loaded.
Yeah.
And like you said, and that translates because only 2 out of the last 11 years have actually come in at those prices. But you know, and this event creates tremendous liability for bookmakers as well, because we do offer such long odds on some of these really quality golfers that you know, leading up to the Masters perform well. Like, as soon as a golfer wins a tournament or looks like he's doing really well, he becomes a hot bet for the Masters, and we start to see liability on him. Tommy Fleetwood is a guy this year that we've seen because he's been flirting, you
People
know,
love
right there.
Tommy Fleetwood, yeah.
Kisner, you know, won a tournament a couple weeks ago. He's a big liability for us. So anytime someone wins a tournament, boom, the betting market reflects it that following week right after that.
Was there one bigger than Kisner or Fleetwood, your single biggest liability?
Those are our 2 biggest liabilities.
Are your 2 biggest.
Yeah. Obviously, Tiger is a big liability every year coming into this as well.
People love to bet Tiger Woods, and your numbers reflect that. In other words, you know that money's coming, so you, let's be honest, you play with it a little.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, obviously, we're going to adjust a guy who is on a 2 or 3 week streak where he's, you know, hitting top 10, top 20 over and over and over. If he's rolling into form, we're going to adjust, just like you would, you know, baseball team or anything else.
Okay.
You know, and our pool is really growing. I mean, we're not going to hit seven figures in the pool this year, but we will next year, I think, with the
Wow.
expansion. We've got a ton of money coming in this pool, so that just proves the popularity of this, because not many of these bets are, the average bet's probably $50, maybe $80 on it, something like that, per ticket. So, it's proving to be very popular, like you said.
It's not just the futures market, though, who's going to win the tournament, though. Professional golf bettors will tell you that where they really make their hay is on the tournament-long head-to-heads. That's really where they make money over the long term. You'll offer those as well. In fact, some of them are already on the playMGM app.
Yeah, and we've gotten into this thing where we sort of tend to match up guys because of their pairings,
Right.
not necessarily because of their ability against each other, which in turn offers great value to the handicappers out there, because there's some pairings that come along that are really some big mismatches. And, a big price on a golfer is $1.80, right? But there's some matchups where it literally should be $3. But, so there's some value out there. But, the scoring is so tight. I mean, you're literally talking about 2 or 3 strokes determine who's going to win a golf
Sure.
matchup. And then also, round matchups are starting to become a lot more popular as well. You just bet who's going to, 2 guys go at it in the first round, and so it's a great sport to bet.
Yeah, I would recommend the tournament long ones just to let your handicap manifest. But yes, there is round by round matchups as well. And then, of course, there's top 5, there's top 10. Love betting those, especially when you have 87 golfers in one tournament. You get to a point where top 10 becomes a very intriguing bet.
Yeah, I mean, top 10 also because you might be out of contention to actually win the tournament, but you are in contention to punch your ticket to come back next year and try it again.
Yeah.
That's the thing where the guys really, and there's a lot of pressure to do that. I mean, this is the tournament to be in. So if you are pressing to get into that range, like top 10 ties, I think are automatically invited back the next year. That's, the pressure on Sunday in the Masters, I think, is like none other in an individual sport.
And it's unlike any other tournament because Jay has had these numbers up, at least the futures market, who's going to win the tournament, for 8 months. There's no other golf tournament that features even a fraction of that being up for as long. So you've had 2/3 of a year to take that money. So I'll give you some of my picks in the Masters coming up on the show, and really we'll narrow it down by sort of trends through the years, and we'll land on 2 golfers specifically. We'll do that. And the NHL Playoffs, how do you bet that? So many ways. We'll talk about that next from Shadow Creek. It's Behind the Book, brought to you by the playMGM app. Back on Behind the Book, it's Gil Alexander and Jay Rude live from Shadow Creek. It's brought to you by the playMGM app. Before we get to hockey, can we just say how awesome it is back here?
Yeah,
It is beautiful.
Weird place to be talking about hockey, but it's a great place to be shooting a show, that's for sure.
That's right. Shooting a show is what he just said. All right, so the NHL Playoffs is upon us. It is starting this week. 8 playoff series, obviously. There's many ways to bet this. The NHL and MGM, the official gaming partner of the National Hockey League.
Yes.
The Washington Capitals, I don't know if you know this, Stanley Cup champions.
Everyone in Vegas does know that.
Yes, they do.
And they actually are getting a lot of support in the first series, them and the Sharks.
Yeah.
So they're betting the team that beat us, and they're betting against the Vegas Knights in the first round.
Us being the Vegas Golden Knights.
That's right.
So the Caps, just to name a few of these series, the Caps are minus 160 against the Carolina Hurricanes. Vegas Golden Knights, just slight dogs to the San Jose Sharks. Sharks are minus 120, Knights are even. But the behemoth in hockey this year has been the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning with 62 wins in an 82-game schedule. The 62 wins ties the 1995-96 Detroit Red Wings. They of Fedorov, Kozlov, and Larionov, and Yzerman.
Every off you can have.
For the most wins ever in a season. And I want to say they did it in 80 games. Don't hold me to that. But it's 62
Yeah, it
wins.
could be.
Tampa Bay minus 400 in their opening round series against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Do people lay the chalk in hockey in general? They go to underdog? What do they do?
$4 is going to be difficult to get them to lay on a series. So we'll probably see a lot of casual bettors taking the price in that particular series. But by far our biggest liability coming into the NHL Stanley Cup is on the Lightning. You know, we don't. I mean, I'm sorry. On the St. Louis Blues is by far our biggest liability. They're 10-1 right now, but that's a short price. They probably should be about 20-1. But because our liability is so bad, we've got them really choked down on the odds right now. But Lightning come in right behind them, next on the list of the teams that we would like to not see in the finals.
Interestingly, and of note, not the Vegas Golden Knights.
That's true. Yeah, Vegas is. We do okay to Vegas, actually. You know, I mean, because
last year would have been a disaster, right?
This isn't quite the Cinderella season like last year. You know, and obviously when you start off at 15 or 18, 20-1 versus 300-1,
yes,
liability takes a little while longer to roll up on us. So yeah, we look pretty good to them. You know, we do really great to like some Carolina Hurricanes, stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
The Lightning and the St. Louis Blues, who interestingly on my radio show this morning had two different hockey guests, both of whom also said, watch out for the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
So that would go counter to your interest. Of course, you can bet this on the series. You can bet this to win it all, Tampa Bay being the shortest shot to win the Stanley Cup playoffs. But the playoffs in hockey are a crapshoot. You have no idea from year to year, despite what happens in the regular season, what's going to happen in the postseason. It's a very random sport in that regard. And of course, individual games, there's the money line, who's going to win, favorites and underdogs, and then there's the run line, which is sort of the puck line rather, akin to the run line in baseball.
Right, where if you have a game where like the Lightning, if they're minus $3, you lay the puck in a half, and maybe you're only laying $1.40 at that point in time. Mm-hmm. But funny that you mentioned that anything can happen in the playoffs, which is a direct result of the betting pools, right? Everyone thinks the NBA, obviously the NBA does great handle for us throughout the regular year, but when you're talking about to win the championship in each sport, we write twice as much money to the NHL than we do the NBA futures because of the parity and the ability for you to bet teams 20 deep into the list, maybe 25 deep into the list, whereas in the NBA, you're only going to go like 8 or 10 teams deep. If even. Yeah. And you'll draw money mid-season if somebody goes on a wild run, 10 or 11 games, straight, and that's when we'll draw some money to them. So that's, the great thing about, like we were just talking about, the Masters, right? There's great value up and down the board. There's great value in hockey up and down the board.
Makes all the sense in the world. And here's a stat, and we'll close it out with this because this is amazing. In the NBA, in terms of series, the favorite gets through individual series in the NBA 80% of the time, talking the individual best of sevens. In hockey, if the favorite were to get through at that rate 80% of the time, instead of best of sevens, you know what you have to play in hockey? Best of 51s. That's how random the sport of hockey is in a postseason situation. It's fun to bet on, though, and it begins this week. The NHL Playoffs. Will the Caps repeat? Will the Knights get back there again to the finals? We shall see. Will the Tampa Bay Lightning make good on their great regular season? It's Behind the Book, brought to you by the playMGM app. It is Behind the Book, brought to you by the playMGM app, live once again from Shadow Creek here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Gill Alexander from the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204, and Jay Rude, the Vice President of Race and Sports of MGM Resorts International. Do you want to play a little Masters Championship formula with me?
Absolutely.
This is from my buddy Dave Tyndall over there in the UK. 9 out of the last 10 Masters winners, you ready for this? Aged under 40 years of age. Ranked in the world's top 30, played in at least one Masters, had a top 30 at Augusta previously, posted a top 10 earlier that season, not the defending champion, meaning they didn't win it last year, and not the world's number one. Qualified a little more.
So throw out Dustin Johnson.
That's right.
Throw out Tommy Fleetwood.
That's right.
Yeah.
10 out of the last 10 had 2 top 15s previously in a given Masters season. 9 out of the last 10 had a top 15 in a stroke play event in March and April. One last thing. 8 of 10 had posted a win on U.S. soil within the previous 2 years. Do you know who that narrows it down to?
Matt Kuchar.
No. 2 golfers, Hideki Matsuyama and Ricky Fowler.
I was going to say, it sounds like Ricky Fowler to me, who you were describing.
Yeah. So, I don't know, take that for
Ricky has been playing pretty good.
Yeah. One of maybe the best golfer in the world not to have won a major, maybe?
I mean,
in that conversation anyway.
Orange and green looks pretty good as well, actually, So
it's an interesting combination for sure.
And I mean, the Masters, you're not necessarily, there's not like necessarily a formula from a player standpoint, like longest driver, doesn't always have the big advantage here. I do think you have to be a pretty solid putter.
Yes,
and I think that's one of the critical characteristics of the guy that's going to win the Masters. You have to be a solid putter, or you have to be really, really hot and in good form.
One of the things that is definitely true about Augusta, and it is the most predictive of all the majors because it's the only one that's played on the same course every year, is that driving accuracy is not that big of a deal. Length much more important than accuracy. I'll tell you who I've bet on to win it all, some futures bets that I have made. I do have a bet on Hideki Matsuyama, the aforementioned Hideki Matsuyama. I've got a bet on John Rahm, Jay, hoping that he keeps his head together for this particular Masters. I also have bets on Bryson DeChambeau and Tony Finau.
I like his hat game. His hat game.
DeChambeau's hat game?
Yeah.
Very hip of him.
And Tony, hopefully he doesn't dislocate his ankle again this year.
in the par three.
Yeah,
that would not be good.
I was amazed that he did as well as he did. I mean,
Yeah.
I would have been up in bed for a month with that kind of
And he
injury.
just popped it right back in, played a little golf the rest of the weekend, and played it well. I have these bets, and then there's always, some regret once this tournament starts. And I'm thinking, who's the guy I regret not having made a bet on yet? And it's Bubba Watson. Bubba Watson, who's won the Masters twice already, 2012 and 2014. And then last year, sort of quietly, he was number 3 in driving distance. He was number 2 in driving accuracy. He was number 1 in greens and regulation. How did he lose this tournament? He sets himself up so well, and the answer is putting.
Yeah, putting. I mean, and he's creative too, because sometimes you got to have some creative shots, because just the way that course sets up, you're coming out of the straw, you're coming around a corner, you got to avoid a tree, and he's one of the guys that will get in there and do some creative stuff with his shot. But I mean, and he played really well. I think like one of your characteristics 2-3 weeks ago, he was right there in a tournament.
Yeah.
But he's also one of those guys that sometimes his head gets in his way.
Could unravel.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and there's like Siwoo Kim is another guy that I think 100 to 1 a lot of places is a good with the flat stick, good young player. But the problem is he can't let a bad hole go. Sometimes it carries over, and you can't do that in the Masters.
I know that's not your side of the counter, but if you had one pick, who would you pick as a sort of off-the-radar guy?
Well, I don't know if I would probably pick 2 guys. I would play Kim, I think, for extreme value, just because I think he's he gives you more value than 150 to 1, or 100 to 1. You're going to have a great shot with him. He's a guy that could come out on the first day and post a 6 or 7 under right away, and then everyone's trying to run after him. But I think Jason Day is one of those guys that I probably would end up burning money for 6 or 7 Masters, betting him every time, because he just looks like a guy that should win the Masters.
He absolutely does. And one day he will, whether it's this year or not. Who knows? There's nothing like the Masters. Is there anything better than just sitting and watching the Masters all day, Thursday through Sunday? Just such a great event.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a nice hoagie sandwich to go with it and maybe a cold beer, that doesn't get a lot better than that.
Oh, what are we waiting
for? Or maybe take a Friday off and the Monday after the Masters and come play around here. I mean, that's.
Can you make that happen?
Yeah, I've played here a couple of times. I don't know if they'll let a guy like you on. I mean, you have to get a shirt with a collar on it, so
I was wondering about.
We'll see. But I can try and pull some strings.
Okay. Jay Rude, the Vice President of Racing Sports at MGM Resorts International. Gil Alexander from VSiN, thank you so much for watching. Good luck with all your Masters bets. Good luck with all your hockey bets. Great time of year. Golf's first major upon us. And thanks to everybody at Shadow Creek. What a beautiful setting here. It's Behind the Book, brought to you by the playMGM app. Good luck with all your bets.